we still argue about the exact moment when everything went wrong. Some of us say it was when the bus slowed down. Others say it was when the birds went silent. But all of us agree on one thing. Nothing about that day looked dangerous. The sky was bright and cloudless. The kind of blue you only get in wide-open parts of America, where the land feels endless. Sunlight poured over the highway as it cut straight through miles of protected forest. Tall pine trees lined both sides of the road, their shadows short and soft under the high afternoon sun. We were tired, sunburned, joking quietly to pass the time. We were students, ordinary guys, heading home. And we had no idea we were about to disappear. The bus slowed suddenly. At first, none of us reacted. Vehicles slow down all the time. Construction zones, wildlife crossings, traffic. Then the bus lurched violently. Metal screamed. People gasped. The bus rolled to a stop right in the middle of the forest highway. We remember looking at each other, confused. The driver muttered something under his breath. Engines dead. Sunlight flooded through the windows, and that's when we saw them. 5 men stepped out of the trees. They weren't hiding. They weren't rushing. They walked calmly into the open road, fully visible under the bright sun. Each of them was holding a rifle. We didn't say anything at first. We didn't need to. Our bodies understood before our minds did. These weren't park rangers. These weren't hikers. The first gunshot hit the asphalt near the front of the bus. Not to kill. To control. People screamed. Panic exploded. Instantly. Passengers surged toward the exits, trampling bags and knocking each other over as they ran into the forest on both sides of the road. Another gunshot cracked the air. Someone shouted, "Run!" We stood up to run too. But then a man stepped onto the bus stairs. "You 3, he said, pointing directly at us. "Stay." The doors closed behind everyone else. And just like that, we were alone. They ordered us off the bus. The sun was hot on our backs as we stood on the asphalt with our hands raised. Our shadows stretched out in front of us, sharp and clear. One of us tried to speak. "We're students," we said. "We don't have money." The man smiled. "Everyone has someone who does." That was the moment it truly sank in. We weren't being robbed. We were being taken. They marched us off the road and into the forest. Not into darkness. Not into shadows. Into bright daylight. Sunlight stabbed through the branches above us, lighting the ground in harsh, golden patches. Dust rose with every step. The forest smelled like pine and dry earth. We remember thinking how wrong it felt. How something this terrifying was happening at noon. The men talked casually as they walked. About ransom calls. About families who paid quickly. About how this stretch of road was perfect because nobody stayed long enough to notice something was wrong. We whispered to each other when we could. Someone will notice the bus. They'll come looking. But the deeper we went, the more the forest seemed to close around us. After nearly an hour, we reached a wide clearing. The sunlight was intense here. No shade, no cover. Just grass, dirt, and trees on all sides. "This works," their leader said. "We wait here." One of the men laughed. "Nothing bothers us out here." The forest answered him. We felt it before we heard it. A vibration in the ground, subtle but unmistakable. Leaves trembled. Birds exploded out of the trees all at once. Then came the sound, low, deep, rolling. It wasn't loud. It was powerful. "What was that?" one of the men asked. The leader frowned, listening. "Probably a bear," he said. "They don't come close." But we knew. Every part of us knew. That wasn't a bear. The first man barely had time to turn. Something burst from the tree line. Not shadow. Not blur. Sunlight. A massive wild tiger exploded into the clearing, its orange and black stripes blazing under the open sky. We didn't understand what we were seeing at first. Our brains refused it. The tiger slammed into one of the gunmen with terrifying force. The rifle flew out of his hands. Dust and leaves shot into the air. The roar that followed shook us to our core. Gunfire erupted. Bullets tore into trees and dirt as the remaining men fired wildly, shouting in panic. The tiger didn't retreat. It charged again. One man screamed and ran. Another dropped his weapon and stumbled backward. In seconds, discipline collapsed into terror. The armed men scattered into the forest, yelling, disappearing between the trees. And then, silence. Bright, unreal silence. The clearing was empty except for us and the tiger. We couldn't move. We couldn't breathe. The tiger turned toward us. Up close, it was enormous. Muscle rippled beneath its fur. Its whiskers caught the sunlight. Its eyes, amber and steady, locked onto us. It stepped closer. Slow. Controlled. We thought this was it. We thought we had survived one nightmare, only to die in another. The tiger circled us once, then again. We could feel its breath as it passed behind us. Then it stopped, and sat down. Just sat, watching us, not aggressive, not hunting. Minutes passed. Our legs shook. Sweat ran down our backs. Then the tiger stood, walked a few steps away, stopped, looked back at us, and growled softly. Not a warning, a signal. One of us whispered what we were all thinking. "I think it wants us to follow it." That sounded insane, but staying there felt worse. The tiger growled again, firmer this time, then turned and walked toward the trees. We followed. Every instinct screamed against it. But the animal moved, with purpose, guiding us through narrow forest paths, bathed in sunlight. Branches seemed to part for it. The forest felt different now, less hostile. At one point, we heard voices in the distance, the armed men. The tiger stopped instantly, turned, roared. The voices vanished. We kept walking. Time blurred. Minutes felt like hours. The forest slowly thinned. The air felt lighter. Then suddenly, the trees opened. A paved highway. We had never been so relieved to see asphalt. The tiger stopped at the edge of the road, turned back to look at us, held our gaze, and then, without urgency, without fear, it turned and walked back into the forest. Gone. We collapsed onto the hot pavement, laughing, crying, shaking. Alive. Park rangers found us later that afternoon after reports came in about an abandoned bus. Police searched the area for days. They found dropped weapons, no criminals, no explanation. Experts told us there were no tigers anywhere near that region. We didn't argue. We didn't need to, because we were there, And we know what walked out of the forest that day. Years have passed. We still talk about it. Not because we're afraid, but because we're grateful. Because in broad daylight, under a clear American sky, something wild chose to intervene. And 3 ordinary students walked away alive.